I think entrepreneurship is made out to be this incredibly difficult thing, and it's no more difficult than working for someone else, just a different type of difficult. I think a lot of people's dreams are actually an idea with a business model that needs to be attached. That's it.
I'm a great believer that entrepreneurship, and that might be a bad word, but setting your own business, being your own boss, making decisions for yourself, it's a liberator.
Young people now in 20 years are going to say social media was their benefit in this moment in history. 30 years ago, property was the opportunity.
Yeah.
Times have moved on. What's your asset today if you're a young person? It is social media. So I've got 21 million followers. We get over 500 million views a month. And I see the change that content makes in people's lives. Who doesn't agree the education system needs an update? I haven't met anyone that doesn't agree. So why is it not happening right now? We want people to be educated in how money works. Not maths until you're 18, how money works. We want to give people the ability to have agency over their life. That's my dream. And I want people to have the tools to make that happen.
Great.
And not be guardrailed into going to some university that's packaged up as good and then getting a job they don't want and debt they don't need to follow a life that they were told 20 years from now would make them happy.
Simon Squibb, welcome to my podcast, Cutting Through the Fog.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I'm delighted. We've been talking about doing this forever, and we've eventually managed to do it.
Yeah, here we are.
And our paths cross a lot in the entrepreneurial world and the business world. And I set up this podcast originally, Cutting Through the Fog, and I called it that very purposefully because I spent a long time trying to figure out what life was about, what business was about, a lot of bullshit, a lot of fog. So I really wanted to cut through it and demystify it. Have you cut through the fog? And if so, tell me more about that.
Well, I think I've cut through the fog because I think entrepreneurship is made out to be this incredibly difficult thing, and it's no more difficult than working for someone else, just a different type of difficult. I think it's I've cut through my own Kool-Aid that I used to drink about how brilliant I am because I'm an entrepreneur, and I've come out the other side of that fog and realized actually I'm nobody special, and if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Right.
And so it's just giving people the knowledge so they've got informed consent and can do it if they want, as opposed to like, it's not for you, or you don't think it's for you. So I've cut through that fog, and that was my own fog. I created that myself, thinking I was some genius business person, when in reality, I'm just a persistent person with a plan.
But it's easy to do, isn't it? It's easy to believe your own Kool-Aid, if you like, or easy to believe your own PR. Or when you actually put a lot of effort into doing something and you do it, you think, wow, I'm pretty good. And you are, but you're no special than anybody else, because anybody can do it if they put their mind to it. Isn't that what part of your message, or one of your messages?
Of course. I think anyone can do it. I think people should give themselves the option that they can do it. I think too many people close it off. I met the other day, when I was asking someone in the street their dream, an artist. And I said, would you ever start a business of your own? They're like, no, I'm an artist. I'm like, all an artist is an entrepreneur, sometimes not realizing you are. So in other words, you don't easily know how to make money from your art. You could paint all day, go live and make money, but people don't know that. And so I think a lot of people's dreams are actually an idea with a business model that needs to be attached. That's it.
Right.
And so we can call it entrepreneurship. I think it's too grandiose a word, to be honest. I think it's just owning your time, and I haven't yet come up with the correct word.
Owning your time.
Yes.
That's simple. That's cutting through the fog, right? In that regard, owning your time and doing what with your time that you can get behind a business idea or a concept or something that you feel passionate about.
Passionate about, ideally, but I'm happy being unpassionate until you find your passion. In other words, like I started a gardening company when I was 15 years old. I wasn't passionate about gardening, but it was like my wax on, wax off Karate Kid moment, right? Like I learned to sell and knock on doors. I learned to hire people. I learned to deal with cash flow. I learned to hire equipment instead of buy equipment. And I learned all these things because I just did something. It wasn't my dream back then, but eventually it would lead me to have the tools to follow my dream.
I think that's a lot of the problem sometimes. It sounds to everybody else like a foreign language or a different language, the words we use in business. Again, which one of the things that led me to want to cut through this fog. Because, okay, I know what it means because I've been doing it for decades. But how are you meant to know what it means if you never use those words and use those terms? So a lot of mystique around the business terminology. And sometimes I hear people, I don't like finance. And I go, well, finance is just, it's your dream or your mission or what you want to do, what you've written in English, convert it into another language called maths. It's sums.
And to be honest, if you say you don't like finance, I mean, I actually don't like accounts as a as a job, that's not what I want to do. There's plenty of people that love accounts. But I think if you want to have a successful life, you need to know financial literacy. You need to understand how money works on your personal side, even if you never start a business. Yeah. That's one of the things I really want people to get the skills of entrepreneurship, because it can help them in their day-to-day life. Even if it's like, how to convince someone that you're the perfect partner for them, or how to convince your boss to give you a higher amount of money. These are all entrepreneur skills that you have in your pocket. And I genuinely believe if you can go to your boss and say, look, I could start my own business, or I can stay with you, you're more likely to get equity in that business, for example. You're more likely to get a higher salary, or you're more likely to have, frankly, more freedom because they value you. It's just making sure you've got those options. And I think people think it's complicated, and it's not.
Before we leave this issue about cutting through the fog, you're a social media influencer, very definitely, and one of the probably the best known out there. I think sometimes, I'd love to know what you think about the role of social media in building up this kind of vision that we have of entrepreneurs or business people, or like the mystique, or like the godlike, or the rock star kind of. I'm thinking of people like Andrew Newman in the States with WeWork. A lot of good with that. He was a visionary, but never got around to actually converting into a business.
Well, he was never on social media much. I met him. He didn't use social media to create stardom. Mm-hmm. But
everybody else did, right?
Well, he raised a ridiculous amount of money, and he PR'd that. Yeah. So and that PR led him to get more noise, more noticed. He personally wasn't using social media much. I think I think social media is absolutely amazing. 20 years from now, young people now in 20 years are going to say social media was their benefit in this moment in history. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, a lot of people, property was the opportunity, right? Property was cheap, people could buy it, and now they're sitting on these assets. They're house rich, often cash poor, but anyway, they've got an asset. Today, no one can afford a house, but people have forgotten, times have moved on. What's your asset today if you're a young person? It is social media. The media itself, mainstream, makes social media out to be this awful thing. Let's ban it for kids. Let's do this. Let's do that. It's all awful. I actually think it's a huge opportunity for you to start something. You can literally today go live, as I am now on this podcast. Sure. I have 4,000 people on the live right now, and I can ask them to buy my book, and they can, and they will. And that is a huge opportunity. You literally can if you open up a physical store, paid all the rent, paid all the deposits, you wouldn't get 4,000 people at a click of a button turning up.
Now, it's a huge opportunity, but the flip side of that coin is it's huge responsibility as well. So you got to use it properly, whatever that means, or appropriately, or with responsibility. How do you do that? How do you manage to do that? And how should one do that? In social media, leverage the benefits, but watch out for the downsides.
I mean, everything has downsides. I once interviewed the founder of the iPod, Tony Fadell. And he said to me, I asked him, you've invented this phone, because the iPod ended up being the iPhone, right? They use the same technology that he invented. Okay. And he said he doesn't view it that he's invented something bad, right? And I pushed him on it. I'm like, are you sure? In the podcast. And he said, no, I look at it, I invented the fridge equivalent of our day. I invented the fridge. Now, you can put bad food in the fridge, and it's a bad fridge, is it? Or you can put good food in the fridge, and it's a good fridge. So his whole thesis, and I actually really believe in it, it made me work even harder after interviewing him, is it's our responsibility to put good food in the fridge. So social media to me is just a fridge. In itself, it's not good or bad, but you can put good things in it. Now, the other side of it, the consumer needs to be fully aware of what they're consuming. Right. If you consume junk, if you consume porn, then that is going to take you away, I think, from a better life. But if you consume knowledge, inspirational content, insights about how the world's working, AI, blockchain, these sorts of things, you can get instantly in your phone an education device that helps you have a better life. So you have to leverage social media. Both as a content creator, my responsibility is, I feel, to put good food in the fridge. There are people putting bad food in the fridge. There's a McDonald's out there, literally putting bad food out there in the world. But I feel like my responsibility, my part, is to put good food in the fridge. Then it's up to consumers to educate themselves and consume good food and make sure they know the difference between good food and bad food.
Absolutely. I love that analogy, by the way. But the key bit there, or the crux, is the education of those. Like, for example, the accusation is that you got to protect the vulnerable because they're manipulated by social media or whatever. That happens. So how do you protect against that? You say education. I agree with you. But is that the answer? A lot of people aren't educated. A lot of people choose not to be educated. A lot of people are try to educate themselves and actually don't know what's right and wrong. And there's a lot of actually manipulation with algorithms and all the rest, which I know very little about, but I can see the effects of. So how do you kind of cope with that as a problem in terms of being responsible and what you put good food in the fridge for? How do you make sure you curtail the effect of the bad food and the agenda behind all of that?
We talk about social media like this whole phenomenon of people being addicted to the wrong thing is new. People have been eating McDonald's. I was taken to McDonald's as a kid as if it was a treat. And so we have been consuming bad things for pretty much the whole of human history. And there are people that will push tobacco as a great thing for you. I mean, there was actually an ad saying 9 out of 10 doctors recommend you smoke. It helps you relax. I mean, we have been sold a lie around products and things our whole life. I think what's different now, and what I see in young people, is actually the opposite to what everyone tells me. Young people are actually fully aware of what's going on. That's why big bad companies are finding it hard to recruit young people that are motivated.
Because they're calling them out.
Because they know the truth about these companies. And so these companies that do bad can't hide anymore behind their money and their brand. Social media exposes them. I see social media as actually a big liberator for people if you consume it right. The education piece, I think, comes multiple angles. First of all, let's take a 20-year-old kid, right? First of all, you need your friends to be saying, hey, I ate this good food, and because of it, I slept better, and I feel like I can exercise more. So you need your peer group to be educated. They educate you. Then your parents, they need to be educated. So they tell you what they know from what they've seen, good and bad. And then you need, I think, external mentors. Now, these days, you can get them from social media. You can say, right, I like this person. I'm going to follow them. I'm going to consume their content. And you embrace that insight from a stranger, but you can call them your mentor if you like. And I think if you do all those things, people do wake up. I'm seeing it. So I've got 21 million followers. We get over 500 million views a month, which is more than the BBC get, just to put it in context for people. And I see the change that content makes in people's lives. They come up to me every day telling me, the young people telling me that they're following their dream. They're asking for the first time, what is their dream? A question they've never been asked before in school by their parents ever. And so that self-awareness and frankly the agency people realize they can have over their life is all from content on social media. It's not complicated. And I think that it's actually a lot easier to educate people now than ever. But we just need to keep doing it, right? I'm actually quite tired. I've been doing this for 6 years. So I have to keep motivating myself to keep going. And I get motivated by the people in the comments that tell me they're following their dream, by the people that come up to me in the street and tell me they're following their dream. So, but I think education is not as hard as it used to be. And I think a lot of people are waking up to their potential now for social media.
Excellent. I mean, I'm a content creator myself, not quite with the same reach that you've got, but I absolutely I do hope that is the case. So what you're pointing out is it is the case if you want it to be the case.
Well, you the reason I'm sitting on this podcast today is because I know that you make content that helps people, and the amount of people it reaches isn't as important as the intent of it being made. So you make content to help people, and that content is, I feel like, one more person in my army, even though I get no financial benefit from you making that content. I'm not involved in the day-to-day of you making that content, but I know that you have done it. I know that you are a good person and you are putting good food in the fridge. And so that's why I'm here, because your reach will grow if you keep being consistent and you genuinely deliver value to people. And I think that I will always support people that do that. And I think that the people that are doing bad stuff, they are dying out. They're getting called out on Netflix, which is brilliant.
They're being crowded out by people like you, by people doing good stuff.
I think so. Again, it's like the internet in the early days. I remember, because I'm old enough to remember, when the internet was a thing, in 1997, 1998.
It was a thing over there, yeah.
Yeah, it was a thing. And lots of bad people went on the internet. And it was considered this scummy place where only awful people were. And then slowly, with the rise of successful businesses and people building proper companies on the internet became a tool, a very useful tool. Most of the scammers now, I think less than 10% is scammers. Now, those scammers are very sophisticated and people have to be very, very aware. But because you have 10% scammers, it doesn't mean the internet's bad. It means that the internet can bring a lot of value to people if you avoid the bad stuff.
Love that message. That's a really constructive message. I believe and hope you're right about that. Two words you mentioned in there, I want to tease them out a little bit, liberation and agency. I think you mentioned agency as well. They're two words I use a lot, and I believe they're fundamental in terms of entrepreneurship. And I want to talk about your why, because I want to talk about what you do and how you do it. I want to talk about why you do it. But I want to start by saying a little bit of what my why is. And I'm a great believer that entrepreneurship, and that might be a bad word, but I think we know what we mean when we say entrepreneurship. Setting up your own business, being your own boss, making decisions for yourself, is all about, is a liberator. Is a liberator for all the problems we have in the world. I think a lot of time, we lack agency because we think this big problem. Oh, I can never get over this. Politicians do it all the time. Leadership in this country, leadership across the world. The younger generation who are very concerned about this, Gen Zs are very concerned about this, very passionate about things, and I think entrepreneurship is a way to allow them to actually implement it, convert purpose into impact, that kind of thing. And that's part of my why. If I can help people to do that, that's a really motivating thing to want to do, and I get energy from that. Agency and liberation, there's just two words, and I think they stood out in terms of what you were saying. So come back to, I think we have some commonality here, but come back to your why. Why do you do what you do?
I love your explanation there, just to say. I think that we, as a species, have sometimes forgotten that we are tribal in nature. So the way it used to work, before money became a big thing, is we'd live in communities, and the idea was if everyone in your community is happy, you're happy. And so in reality, our DNA is defaulted not give and take, but to give without take. That's our natural factory setting. To want to help someone in your community, because if you do, the whole tribe's happier. So if someone's tent fell down, it wouldn't be, I'll only fix it if you pay me. Be like, look, come in my tent, and tomorrow we'll go get the bar that broke fixed, and then it'll be all right. In the meantime, come and stay with me, right? And then that person wouldn't be unhappy because they haven't got anywhere to sleep tonight, and then the next day we'd fix it. And I think, there was nothing about money. And the person you're fixing the tent for couldn't do anything for you anyway. They're probably not the person you need to help you. You just help them, and then they can help someone else, and they then eventually can help someone else. And then one day when you need help, you get it.
Come back.
So I think what you're touching on there, and what I really believe is true, is that what actually makes us happy, once we've got the basic human needs sorted, is giving back. Even if it's 5 minutes each day, helping one person in some way, can be small or big, but that actually helps us sleep better at night. This is not talked about much because most people can't get to that place because they've got to pay, the rent, and they've got to pay the electricity bill, and they've got to pay the food bill, and it's all crazy. By the time you paid all those bills, you've been working 29 days straight,
and you've got nothing left.
You've got nothing left, yeah. And so you're in fight or flight. And I think what we have lost in that crazy time, and I've been around long enough now to see the change. In the last 30 years, I've gone from you can be one person working where your partner can be at home with the family. That is now not possible.
Yeah.
Both parents need to work. If you're living in London, 100% you both need to work. The fabric of society has got crushed at the very basic core level. We're not even talking about the family unit has been crushed, and we're not even talking about the community unit, which has also got crushed. So I think it's our responsibility as successful people to reinvigorate that idea that we give back, right? And so I'm doing it. I know you do it. And to be honest, it's also a selfish pursuit. So anyone listening that actually can help should help, because it will actually make them happy. So I do what I do because I enjoy it and I feel good about helping. And the byproduct of that is I can consistently do it, which means in the end, lots of people get help.
Benefit from it.
But I'm benefiting from it because I feel good.
Yeah.
I sleep well. Like I got a Whoop. I'm sponsored by Whoop, so I should plug them all the time. But I genuinely love this product because it tells me. I honestly think my sleep pattern and whether I sleep well or not is how many people I've managed to help in a day.
Wow.
The more people I help in a day, the better I sleep.
But you can get to measure that, right? You're in a place.
I can manage it for the data.
Right.
I can see.
Right.
On days when I've not been able to help someone, my sleep is worse.
Really?
It's a fact. So I kind of know now, that this is our human instinct, not just my personal belief system, but by the data.
We've clearly lost the ability to do that. And you're talking about people's needs are submerging them, and they just can't get beyond it to give without seeing what's in it for me. But then also there's the aspiration. If you go beyond the needs, we kind of, as a society, being very judgmental here, we aspire to all the wrong things. We aspire to a lot of consumption. We aspire to things that don't give back. How do we correct that? By just doing more of it? Or how do we get to that stage?
I want to do a Rory Sutherland kind of thing. I'd be like, well, what we should do is we should give everybody a Lamborghini for a week. And then everyone has a Lamborghini for a week. And then they'll know what I know as someone that's driven lots of fancy cars. After about a week, you're like, this thing is too much, taking up too much of my time. It's basically too much management. And then you'll default back to, oh, what actually makes me happy? Hanging out with my mate at the pub and listening to his issues so I can help him. Or going around back to mum's house and making her breakfast for Mother's Day. You know, like buying my best friend a present that he wasn't expecting. You know, like what actually makes us happy is none of the things that were advertised to us. The problem is the advertising is seriously slick. I used to own an agency. I used to earn millions of pounds a year doing ads for companies. And the whole concept is to trigger that thing in your brain. If you buy this, it will make you happy. But the truth is nearly everything I've ever bought ends up owning me. It doesn't make you happy. But I think people need to know that. We want everyone to have a Lamborghini so they can see that when these people are selling you a course with a Lamborghini behind you, they're selling you the wrong thing. You know, I met a guy the other day who's sold a course by someone selling a course, and they're in a job they hate, selling a course about something they don't really understand. The whole thing just isn't fun, right? So I think, and it's all sold by some guy that said, follow my course, you'll make a load of money with a Lamborghini behind him. And so it's
which he rented for a day, by the way, just so he can make
most
the ad.
likely. The worrying thing is that a lot of these scammers aren't renting the Lamborghinis for a day anymore. They actually do own the Lamborghinis because they fooled enough people into thinking that owning the Lamborghini was going to make them happy, and now they get so many suckers signing up to their crap course that they actually can afford the Lamborghini, and then that is a problem. That reinforces bad behaviour, right? If you do something bad and you get a Lamborghini, more people will think, well, you know, greed is good. We'll go back to the 80s.
Yeah, of course. Back to the 80s, indeed. Right, let me repeat that. Anything I've ever bought has ended up owning me.
Yeah, nearly everything I've ever bought owns me, and that includes my house.
Yeah.
You know, I rented for 20 years. I never thought once about the boiler, about cleaning the windows. It was nothing to do with me. And I literally built massive companies instead, which I loved. And so, and by the way, when you build a company, you create value, right? So I built a business called Help Bank. It's worth £100 million. It was zero when I started. I made it worth that. I didn't take from anyone. I didn't destroy anyone else. I built something that became valuable. I created wealth, which is something I think people misunderstand about wealthy people and entrepreneurship.
Sure.
We don't take. I think the banks take. Certain business models, they take from the system. Entrepreneurship, we create something in our head and we make it real. And that creates value.
I was going to ask you about Help Bank. Tell me more about that. What really is it? What does it do? What's the purpose? Why did you set it up?
So Help Bank is now 3 years old. In fact, I think the product is still crap. I think it's a work in progress.
Okay.
But the philosophy of it is pretty exciting. And so we've got LinkedIn and we've got Facebook, and most of these platforms, especially LinkedIn, is just people go there and they flex. This is the award I won. This is how brilliant I am. And I think what we actually need in the world is a place where it's okay to ask for help.
Right.
So I know everybody has a struggle each day, big and small. And you want, in business, it's very embarrassing to say, can you help me? So especially on LinkedIn, I never see it, very rarely. So I love the idea that there's a place, and this is what Help Bank's original premise was. You press a button and you can get help. And you can press a button and you can give help. And the great thing is, the media's made us think every human on the planet is evil. Humans are super nice and super kind.
It's a marketplace for giving and receiving help.
Exactly. And it's literally there that it's okay to ask for help because it's really hard. And it's a place where you can go and, you know, do that 5 minutes a day and feel like you're contributing to society by helping one person with a problem today.
And it's any kind of help, or it's business-related help, or it's
startup
help.
It's generally business.
Yeah.
There is always the odd personal thing that pops up, but we try to make it constructive because what we don't want to build is a place where you get a free fish. We want to build a place where you can get help with your fishing rod to make sure your fishing rod works, to make sure your fishing rod is the right fishing rod with the right bait on it to take it even further.
Sure.
Yeah, so the general premise of the system is go there with a constructive ask, don't go there with give me money.
Okay, I get it. And it goes back to that old wives' tale or whatever it was I was told when I was a kid. You know, feed a man for a day, give him a fish. Feed a man for a life, teach him how to fish.
Exactly.
So what you're talking about there is the help that gives people to help themselves.
Yes.
Yeah?
Back to the agency point you were saying.
Back to the agency, right.
I think having agency over your life is the single biggest reason I have loved every single day of my work for the last 35 years. Even when, at some points, I'm picking dog shit up off a grass, off someone's grass.
Well, somebody's got to do it.
Or I'm cleaning a toilet in my swanky office in Hong Kong. I still didn't mind because I had agency over my life. I could say I'm not going to clean that toilet. That was my choice. I have free will. But I decided I'm going to do it today because the cleaner didn't come in and we had a big client coming in. I have control.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the single biggest thing I see right now. Young people in particular are being a bit brainwashed into, blame this person that you're not successful. Blame the rich, blame an immigrant. It's all sick and sad and wrong. And frankly, we've seen this in history in previous times, right? Hitler blamed the Jews. It's just disgusting. And I think instead we should empower people to realize, yes, there's always going to be problems in the world. Yes, there are inequalities, but you have the ability to take control of your life and make a difference and change it. And if we don't give people that, then they look for a scapegoat. And that's when things go dark.
That's a very positive message to give, especially in a time right now when, one could say it's darker times than it's been for a long time. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe we're just more aware of it.
I don't think it's darker times. I think right now is the best times.
The rise of populism, the rise of blame, the rise of, everybody's like to make things, everybody's like, I'll do stuff, what's in it for me? The exact opposite of what you just described a moment ago. A lot of that is going on, and you see it because social media is used to demonstrate it a lot. But you think it's not so dark.
Well, I'm caught in a very positive bubble. So a lot of people are caught in a very negative bubble. If you listen to the news, in my opinion, you get caught in a negative bubble. You hear about the wars and the awful things, because that's how they clickbait it. But in my bubble, I see every day 300,000 people helping each other. That's what my platform is presently running. 300,000 people every day log on and they help someone.
Yeah.
Even in we put a video up yesterday. This morning, in less than 13 hours, it's had over 2 million views. And in the comments, you see people wanting to buy the person's hoodies, it was in the video. Hundreds of people putting their hand up and saying, I'll support him. And so, again, it's a bit like the fridge analogy. You can sit in a bubble and see the world as bad, and you've got no control over it, as you haven't really got a control over the wars, right? Or you can sit in a bubble where you do have control and then use that positive impact feeling to change the world for better.
Now, I think there's a parallel here with entrepreneurship, because you have to have that kind of glass half full. It's an over-hackneyed phrase, but you have to have a positivity.
And it's trainable.
Well,
I think a positive mindset can be trained.
It is, absolutely. But when you have an idea, which is, go back to the 1987 when you set up New Covent Garden Soup Company. It's a crazy thought, really, but no, liquid soup didn't exist then. It didn't, but it was all in a can, and we wanted to put it in a carton, and the rest is history. But we were told so many times, it's stupid, it's wrong, it'll never work. Are you crazy? And we were told you would kill somebody because you'd have them sterilised. Oh, and lots more besides. So you have to have a thick skin to kind of, otherwise you think, yeah, they're probably right. You know what, I won't bother. So how do you get over that? You have to have agency, but there's a lot of uncertainty. You don't know how the story's going to end when you start this whole journey. You need a lot of positivity, right, to actually get there.
I think you also need to be, you have to question everything. I think we accept what we hear too much. So I think it's good to get feedback and good to get other people's opinions. But at some point, you just have to be skeptical of what you're told, because everything has been reinvented every 10 years. So whatever was true 10 years ago isn't true now.
Is it that it's just not true and it's the opposite, or it's just less true than it was?
Well, I think it's if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you'll be right.
Say that again.
If you believe you can or you believe you can't, you'll be right. It's a Henry Ford quote. If you hadn't followed through, if you hadn't done the marketing right, if you hadn't been right, it would have failed, but at least you would have tried.
Sure.
And so I think that's the thing. I had the same thing. I have this theory a little bit now that anybody that tells you it's a really bad idea, but they haven't had a successful business themselves, don't listen to them.
Yeah.
If they've had a really successful business themselves,
they might have a point. Yeah.
May have a point, but also look at what time in history they had that opinion. So, for example, if you started a business 30 years ago and you were starting a bank, it was very different. You needed all sorts of different things. Now you could probably start a bank a lot easier because the world's changed.
Yeah.
And so, you can't start a bank.
Of course you can.
You can.
Now,
yeah.
30 years ago.
But, yeah, that's what I mean. So you have to look at the history of when their knowledge was relevant, and now is it relevant? and take that in context. But again, it's like a checkbox. First thing is, have they had a successful business? If they haven't, honestly, do you want to take advice from someone that actually doesn't know business? If you've got an idea, let's say an idea. Second level is like, okay, when they give you advice, let's say it's counter to your idea, what time in history did their idea work? Because they have survival bias, right? So sometimes people are out of date, okay? They don't know how TikTok works, for example.
Sure.
I can launch any business today on TikTok and it'll pretty much be successful because I have a social media following and I can just post the product up online and I can sell it. But that was, of course, not the case 20, 30 years ago. If I go speak to the founder of Walmart and say, I'm thinking of starting a business selling everything Walmart sells online, he'll say, that will be really hard. You know, you need warehousing, you need trucks. When I did it, I had to raise 100 million. Well, he maybe doesn't know about TikTok Shop. He doesn't know the new world, right? So it doesn't mean he's right or she's right?
Okay, that's interesting advice there. So there's two pieces or two sides of the same coin there. One is only take advice from somebody who's kind of done something similar before, but also the absolutes can be out of date.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be that, yeah, I can see why you're saying that, but it's a completely different world now.
Totally.
But it takes a lot of confidence to be able to say that, yeah, I hear you, and I understand you, and you're right, and you've done it yourself, but actually you're wrong. And I'm going to do it anyway.
Look, when I started this whole platform 6 years ago, my own platform, I said I'm never going to charge people for help. Right, and everyone said the only way you make money is charging a course fee, or that's how this industry works that I'm in, right? Where the self-help industry.
Yeah.
And I refused to do it. And the great thing about being so certain you're not going to do it is I found another way to monetize it, which ironically makes you different from everybody else.
Independent,
and not having to charge the very people you're helping allows you to help a lot more people, right? A lot of people that can't afford the course.
Sure.
But time and time again, even like 3 days ago, I was pitching to someone a business and they told me free doesn't work. I'm like, 6 years ago, someone said that to me and I almost believed them, but I followed through to check. Turns out you can, and I can prove it. Now I can push back with proof that it's not true. But I think what I'm getting to is like, if you have an idea, and let's say a lot of people tell you it's not going to work, what's the lowest cost way you can test whether or not that idea is true? So what did I do? I did a webinar and I put it out there that it's free. And I then invited people. No one turned up. So that could have proven, I didn't charge for it, right? I didn't charge for it. No one turned up. So the second time I did it, I still refused to charge. But this time I said, sign up. There's only limited amount of space, 200. And then so 200 people signed up. And then 1 hour before the webinar, I sent them all a text saying the webinar is now on. All 200 people turned up. So it wasn't the theory of free that was the problem. It was my system for introducing it to people, right? A combination of scarcity and then reminder. But it wasn't free that was the problem.
It was holding them back.
Free was too dumb. The answer was too dumb. So I could low cost check whether these people that were telling me free doesn't work, whether they were right or not. And they were wrong. It was so exciting when I realized they were wrong.
Right.
Because I'm like, wow, I can change the whole market.
But also you had the evidence to point out why they were wrong. Going back to that point about free, and we agree on so many things, and this is one I think maybe that we don't agree on. So it'd be interesting to dig in on this one. Is it that people don't value stuff when it's free? Is that what puts them off? It can't be worth doing? Or what's the problem with free then?
Okay, free is a self-enforcing model. When you say to someone, it's free, nearly everybody I see that's doing that is actually selling something less good to get them to buy something good.
Okay.
So most people that sell free are using it as a way to upsell you something they're charging
It's
for.
a lead magnet to something else.
So again, I have proven this to be true. So I was offered a huge amount of money to do a course. And part of that course was like how to start a business from 0 to 10 million pounds, the whole thing. So I recorded it, 2 hours and 26 minutes. And I could cut it up and sell it to 4,000 people for £2,000 easily, which is 20 million pounds.
Do the maths, right?
So, but I decided instead to put it up on YouTube. It's now the most popular business video on YouTube in the world. 16 million views. And you go read the comments and see if people found value in it. Because here's the thing about free. Very few people put value in free. If you put value in free, yes, at the beginning, maybe not so many people turn up, but they tell people. And then even more people turn up next time. So it's like, if you have a really good coffee shop, selling really good coffee, and people are going there all the time and they love it.
But they are selling it.
Yeah. Let me finish.
Okay.
And then one day they say, no, you know what? The coffee's free. Are people not going to turn up and want the coffee anymore? If the quality doesn't drop, the service is the same, the atmosphere is the same, they're still going to turn up, right?
I like it. Yep.
So I think the problem is people don't want free to have value, because a lot of people that are selling something want to prove that they're only selling it because people won't value it otherwise.
Okay, so that's
not true.
That's about building a fence around what you believe is
Exactly.
of value,
and then you make sure it's true.
Yeah.
Right? Because I did it for free and no one turned up, so
Guess what?
I did it for free and no one turned up, so I changed the way that I sold it.
I absolutely get it. Now let's just go one more step, which is, if you don't charge for it, people won't respect it, right? They kind of like, for example, right? A couple of weeks ago, I was meant to meet somebody, and they said they can't meet. So okay, well, I'm going to be here at this place. I'm going to have dinner that evening. I may end up on my own, or I'll meet somebody else. And if you come up, if you turn up, fine. And they said probably not, because I've got this thing I got to do. And then getting closer and closer to the event, on the day they said, oh wait, I'm not going to do this thing. I'm actually going to go to meet you on for dinner. It was a course, or it was a program, or a webinar that they had signed up for, but it was free. And they said to me, I didn't pay for it, so I didn't bother, and I went to see you instead.
Who was providing
But
it?
if I had paid for it, I probably would have done it.
Who provided it?
Oh, the detail I don't really know, but
I would say I genuinely think if it was Tony Robbins and it was free, they would have still would have gone.
Uh-huh.
And maybe what they were offering was a throwaway. They didn't think they actually needed the thing.
Anyway.
Because I think this is just a ruse. And it's easy for people to say, I didn't go because it was free. Maybe what he means is he didn't really need it and he doesn't lose any money by not going. Fair enough. It doesn't mean free has no value. You just need to put value in free. And I think, sure, whoever was selling it, if you gave me the detail, I'd go look now, I'd be able to tell you why they didn't go. And if I understood their life and the importance of that thing, again, if it was Tony Robbins, they would have gone.
Accept it.
Even if it was free.
Accept it. Let me talk about your book, because you got your book here, which I've read.
Does anyone like a book plug?
Come on, tell me more about your book. It's What Your Dream, and I'm going to ask you that question in a minute, by the way, because I've got to. But why did you write? Because you got.
To be honest, I was asked to write a book, and I said no, because I'm dyslexic, and so to me, I like learning via video content. So a YouTube video I made with all the knowledge I have. You don't need to buy my book. I put all the knowledge for free on YouTube. You don't need to spend any money on the book.
But you still went through the pain of writing the book. Right?
Well, the book itself, when I originally was asked, I said no, and then Penguin, my publisher, basically said we'll give you a load of money and we'll promote it, and then they said we can get it in all the bookshops in the world. And I thought to myself for a second, there are people that will watch stuff on YouTube, but there are people that will watch stuff on TikTok. Sometimes, by the way, between TikTok and YouTube, there are different types of people, different profiles. The person that will sit down and watch a 2-hour video on YouTube is different to the person watching a 1-minute education video on TikTok. And then they showed me a chart about the amount of people reading a book. And I thought to myself, actually, this is another demographic I'm not tapping into that I can help. Mm-hmm. And so I said yes to doing the book. And it wasn't about the money, any of the things that they initially mentioned. It was about distribution in my head. And so, and I have to say I have learnt something. Because I don't consume books myself, I just made this assumption that books are old news. And I was completely wrong.
They're not. They're making a big comeback.
Hundreds of thousands of people send me messages since getting the book. They take me on holiday with them. They buy the book at the airport and they go on holiday and they come back changed because of the book. And so I completely changed my mind about books. And so I've learned to write books. The first book was so hard. I've now written a second book, which will be out in January, and I've just signed to do a third book because I can go really deep in a book in a way that perhaps YouTube doesn't allow you to do, because people get distracted on YouTube, and watching 2 hours and 26 minutes on YouTube is a concentration nightmare, right? Because you've got all these distractions and crazy things coming up for you to click. But a book is so intimate. And so I've managed to do quite deep conversions of people's limiting belief systems, people holding themselves back, people not following their dreams, by them taking me on holiday with them and reading a book. So I'm completely bought into the book model now, which I wasn't before.
A book is so intimate. I've never heard it described that way, but it is. For me, I mean, I'm from an older generation, and I don't read that many books, but I would read a book, and I've read that book. But we all hear that concentration levels are so low, and then the modern generation don't read books and don't read newspapers. So you then realise that actually is not the case, and it's a whole range of new people that you can reach.
It's interesting. A lot of the
Who are they?
A lot of the people, if you go read my Amazon reviews, are people that I've never read a book before.
Okay.
I've read this book. I'm glad I did. And so what's interesting, I think, is a bit like Free. We have this belief that young people, for example, can't concentrate. Again, I think it's about the value that you bring. So when we launched that video, 2 hours and 26 minutes, everyone said no one's going to watch it. It's too long. YouTube is 8 minutes, max. And I said, I'm going to upload this video because I'm getting all these questions in my DM and I want to release it. Plus someone offered money for a course. I want to get rid of the temptation. And I just want to put it out there in the world. So I can't make 20 million pounds. I just want it gone. So I'm not going to sell a course. And so the thing is, you look at the retention time, 80% of people, 80% retention on that video. On average, people are watching that video for 1 hour, 50 minutes.
Okay.
So people will watch a Netflix show. They will watch Game of Thrones. They will watch something.
But that's entertainment, right? That's like for different purpose.
Entertainment and education can link. There's no such thing as a separation. Why
Okay.
can't education be entertainment?
Okay.
So
I like
that's
that too.
by the way, that's one of the magic of our content. We are educating and entertaining. And I think there's, again, these kind of belief systems that education should be blackboard, person in the front, telling a classroom of 30 people the shit that they know. It doesn't have to be that way. And so I think, again, we have pioneered a kind of fun education model, which is about like enjoying yourself, learning something. And we put a YouTube video up a few days ago of a kid called Daryl who wants to be a DJ. And the whole video is actually an education video, but it's so entertaining because we watch him go from not believing himself, not believing it's possible. It's had hundreds of thousands of views already. And then he's on stage with Jax Jones, one of the biggest DJ music creators in the whole of the world, on stage in front of 15,000 people. This kid Daryl it's entertaining and it's educational. And so I think that they can go hand in hand, but like Free can have value. You know, we do make these assumptions in our brain. We have these limiting belief systems that tell us these two things can't go together, and it's not true.
It's like that phrase, you couldn't make it up when something happens, right?
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't, if that would be a film in Hollywood, and then, well, it's real life.
Right.
And it actually happened. And it's
Totally.
even more entertaining and more evocative. Yeah.
That's why I love entrepreneur stories.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
couldn't make them up. People told you it wasn't possible, and you made it possible.
And it's a real story. Tell me more about. Okay, so go back to your, not so much the book itself, but you go up to people in the street, and we see you every day of the week. You go, like, do you have a dream? Do you have a dream, Simon?
I want the education system to be updated. I think we have right now this system that generally trains people to go to university and get a job. That's the main focus of education. And so in England right now, there's 700,000 kids that just come out of university who can't find a job. So we have to press the panic button.
They can't find a job. Why? They're poorly educated or not?
No. Well, there's a combination of reasons why.
Okay.
It's a perfect storm. Combination of too many people have gone to university. So having a degree is not a differential anymore. But when you get a degree, you're already pumped up. You think that you can't work at Starbucks. You believe you could only get a 100 grand a year job, or there's nothing. And you also have been built up into, I can do it, the job, but they don't have the experience to do it. So, where's the 1 year work experience piece? Plus they're in debt, plus they're under pressure from their parents or family to get a job.
The expectation
and
is
then
so high.
AI at the same time, AI has taken more jobs.
Pour kerosene on the flames.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think that a lot of people have, in fact, university sold it to people as you're going to earn more, you're going to earn a lot of money. So people, when they come out the other end, they're not willing to do what I did, which is earn pretty much nothing for 2 years to learn my craft, right? So people aren't willing to do that now. And so I've spent 4 years at university. I've got £60,000 worth of debt. I deserve more. Now, I'm being very general, okay?
No, I get it.
But there's a lot of nuance to it. But I think what's happened is the perfect storm. But my thing is, like, we need to open up other tracks within the education system. So apprenticeships. I'm pleased to see that's back on the table. That's one more option for people. Maybe become a plumber because you enjoy it and you like doing things with your hands. Let's make that cool again, right? Because university, to get a job sitting behind a computer might not be for everybody, right? And then the third thing, I think we haven't opened up this track and we need to do it desperately, is entrepreneurship, right? I call it agency over your life because entrepreneurship seems to conjure up creating space rockets and sending them to Mars. No, I'm talking about you like walking.
But that's the Elon Musk type of entrepreneurship, which is relevant. But
Yeah,
you're talking about
there's different levels.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about levels horizontally,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's about what you want to do with your life, right? So if you want to be a painter, all you need is a business model behind it so you can be a painter, right? And sometimes that might mean you need a co-founder. You do the painting and they sell the painting, right? I think it's just, we need that third track quite desperately, because I think about those 700,000 uni kids sitting there, like talented, young, ready to go people with time on their side, they're still young, doing nothing on social benefit. We're training a whole generation to sit there waiting for a job. Create a job. We want people to be educated in how money works. Not maths until you're 18, how money works. We want to give people the ability to have agency over their life. That's my dream. That people are given the chance to have what they're good at turned into something they do. And I want people to have the tools to make that happen.
Great.
And not be guardrailed into going to some shit university that's packaged up as good and then getting a job they don't want and debt they don't need to follow a life that they were told 20 years from now would make them happy.
That, and it's just there, that is the definition of manipulation, surely.
It is.
So who's putting those strings?
I think it's not necessarily a group of evil people like people think, in my opinion. It's just money. It's just people follow the money. I don't think McDonald's was born evil. I mean, I've watched the McDonald's story. It's two guys that like making good food, and they like their community, and people come in and enjoy the food. They were happy people who were enjoying the food. I think, unfortunately, money corrupts. And so what happens is people follow the money. And a lot of the time, the arms companies, if you go into a war, they make money. So they have a vested interest in war. It's not evil companies per se, although I think they are evil. They are just wanting to make money. So I think we should incentivize good things to make money. Right? So businesses that do good for society should make money. That's why I'm not personally running a charity model. I'm running a for-profit for good, because then I can invest in good people without it being a backlash on me. I can pay people well. I think that for-profit for good allows me to do crazy things like buy a staircase in Twickenham and put a doorbell on it, right? And so I think that we have to start supporting businesses that do good. And thanks to social media, we can find out who's doing good and who's not.
So how do you eat the elephant? How do you get that started? Because
I'm not going to eat an elephant. What would I like the terminology though.
You're very passionate about and so am I, and so are lots of people. But it's like it's like what I said at the beginning about this trying to solve this problem. This mountain is so goddamn big. We're just never going to get there. But eating the elephant, the answer is in little bits at a time. Of course.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you get to that?
I use a completely different analogy.
Land?
I use, if you want to move a mountain, you move one small rock at a time.
Love it. Okay, so
eating an elephant one small bit at a time also doesn't work, mate. I think your analogy is shit, but
let's go with yours.
It's visually good. I might even use it because it's visually good. But I think. Look, reality. It doesn't matter how crazy your idea is. It is one small step at a time. And I think for me, fixing the education system, first step, interview loads of people that have all the knowledge. Put it into a podcast. I did 200 episodes. Everybody's knowledge in a podcast. I did 200 episodes. That was step one, right? Step two, make content on social media, showing my knowledge and others direct to the audience. Step two. Those got quite good views, but then that's the beginning, isn't it? It's like you've got the knowledge bank of all these people that know what they're doing, and then you've got you talking to an audience and building up that audience. Step three is pick a normal person. This is my process. I'm sharing it to teach people how they could do it. Step three was pick a normal person and help them through the process of following their dream. So I don't tell people how to do it. I show people how to do it. And eventually, now, today, 6 years later, I have a profitable education system that is free for people that want to use it, that is infinitely scalable. Now, I could take this model and insert it as the new education model into the school system. Mm-hmm. I could. And teachers, by the way, are already signposting kids that want to learn business to our channel. So if a kid goes up to a teacher in most schools now and says, I'm not really enjoying this, I want to learn business. The teacher says, go watch Simon Squibb's content and learn from there. And then join his community, maybe you can get some help, right? So we've already built, without the government's help, we've completely cut them out. We cut the middleman out. We go straight to the kids on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and we teach them. The teachers see it, they approve, they also tell the kids. Parents see it and tell their kids to watch it. So I have Sarah Willingham, ex-Dragon and Dragon's Den, someone I really respect, come up to me recently and say, I tell my kids to watch your content. That's my biggest achievement this year. Parents telling their kids to watch it. And the truth is, we fix the education system by building an alternative to it. And frankly, you can't put a fire out in a house from inside the house. So if I'd gone into politics like I did originally think, I'd still be stuck there trying to convince them that change is required. Instead, I built an alternative. And now at least if I do sit down with these people, I can say, this is the answer. I've spent millions of pounds building it and it works. Do you want to do it? Or are you going to carry on with your shit system? Because your shit system is going to get replaced by me anyway.
Wonderful. I like that. And that's the essence of entrepreneurship. It's like big problems, big solutions. Let's not do anything big. Let's do one little step at a time.
Yep.
Let's go after some low-hanging fruit. Let's demonstrate. Everybody goes, wow.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Yeah, I am. I don't have to explain it anymore. It's already there. Yeah. The problem, though, is we live in the real world, and the people who are in power right now are actually, I think, politics, one of the reasons it doesn't work is there are a lot of poor people in politics.
Agreed.
And they go into politics for all the wrong reasons. So at some point, you're going to come up against this kind of like, not invented here syndrome. Or I remember when we did New Common Garden Soup Company, any of the business that we did, it was like, have the courage of your conviction, I used to say. And the opposite side of that coin is don't be a slave to the conventional wisdom. So you got a lot of people who are slaves to the conventional wisdom and don't like change, and this is how we've always done this, and Westminster is the same as any other country, any other parliamentary system. So are you saying that you basically you might end up surrounding them and circumventing them?
You think about it,
but that'll take a lifetime or two, right?
Well, this is my life's work. I'll probably die on the hill trying to make this change happen. But I think it is quite exciting to think about everything that isn't good can be replaced, and I think entrepreneurship is the answer. So here's the irony: if I'm teaching people entrepreneurship and just telling people how to do it, it's not as powerful as me showing people how to do it. So I've spent the last 6 years moving one small rock at a time. And now I have a profitable, for free education alternative. If you don't want to go to university or at university and don't love it, or come out of university and can't find a job, there is another platform, us, where you can go and get help for free to follow your dream, what you actually want to do, and create your own job. We've done it. It's profitable. Anyone can get access to it for free. And so in my mind, the government's, and I use this very carefully, because if this was clipped wrong, I'd get into trouble. But we can disrupt government by providing an alternative, whether they like it or not. And see, originally I'm like, go inside the house and try and put the fire out, fix the education system, or build the product that solves the problem externally and then offer it up, as I have done many times, to the government, and they take it or they leave it. Either way, I don't give a shit, it's happening. So I think that's probably the way you disrupt everything, isn't it?
Exactly.
Every time I ever hear history of business, Netflix went to Blockbusters. Would you like to work together? Blockbusters, no, we're amazing. We've got all these stores. People like going in the stores. Netflix, all right, we'll carry on. Yellow Pages. Google went to Yellow Pages. Do you want to put all your listings on Google? No, we don't. We're Yellow Pages. All right, good, we're doing it anyway.
They have the courage of their convictions,
exactly,
right?
And I'm exactly the same. I'm beyond courage of my conviction at this point. I had courage in my conviction 6 years ago. Now I've got courage in a proven model.
You're proving that it works in the real world. That's always a challenge. Yeah, that's theory. Yeah, that'll never work in scale. But you can demonstrate it.
Yeah.
We're probably going to have to wrap up. But there's one thing I want to talk to you about. You've lived in the Far East, and I think Hong Kong, right? And this is actually Japan. But I'm going to read it because I want to get it right. The 4 principles Ikigai. Yeah, right. Ikigai, right? So it's all about your passion, what you love, your vocation, what you're good at, your mission, what the world really needs, and your profession, what you can be paid for, what you can actually earn a living from. And if you can, get the combination of all those 4, you can make a difference, but you'll be also happy yourself, right? I guess that, in a way, is it part of what you're doing?
I think Ikigai is great. It's missing a little bit of nuance for me. I think the one element is like, you aren't always going to be good at something at the beginning. So I know someone right now who's becoming a good golfer, but they're playing every day. So I think the nuance matters. Like sometimes when people read that, they might think Ikigai means do something I'm good at. I think it's do something you enjoy. And if you follow through and you're persistent, the world is, there's so many athletes, that Olympic gold medalists that talk about, I've been to quite a few of them, and they will say that during the process of being good, they were bad. And some of the people they trained with were better than them, but they didn't give up. And they were consistent. And because they weren't as good, they had to train twice as hard. And it turns out stamina is just as important as talent. So there's a whole thing, I think, within the Ikigai that's a little bit wrong. It's great framework, but they're missing this nuance of like, you don't have to be good at it at the beginning. You can get good at it. Like, I wasn't good at sales or marketing. I wasn't good on camera. Now I'm okay, and I'm getting better every week. But the point is that you have to enjoy it. I enjoy sharing my knowledge, and I'm getting better at giving that knowledge and sharing it. And so I've got good at it. But if you go look at my early TikToks, you will laugh your head off. I look like an idiot. And so I wasn't good at it, but my feeling was the world needed it, so I had to get good at it.
Right. and you've perfected your art over that time.
Yes.
And going on and learning more all the time.
Yes.
This has been a fascinating chat. I really enjoyed it. I wish it could go on, but you got things to do. I've got things to do. We'll have a drink down the pub and carry it on then. But listen, Simon Squibb, thank you so much for joining my podcast.
Thank you for what you do, John.
Cutting
Got
to the
so much
fog.
respect for you. Appreciate
Cheers,
you.
mate.
It's a wrap.